I have a guest with me in the studio in person of Dapo Adaramewa. Thank you for being here with us. He's a governance consultant, and he's going to be dissecting some of the views and also, discussing NLC strike. Olowoseye from Ondo State says statutorily the Nigeria Labour Congress is expected to fight for the welfare of the workforce in Nigeria, and that is what they have been doing. This is not the first time that NLC will propose strike, and it's not the first time they will embark on a strike. But I feel NLC should allow the new government to settle in first and constitute the appropriate cabinet ministers before taking this step. That way, the grievances of the union will be channeled to the right ministers and negotiations will be made. Can Nigerians wait till this is constituted? So Olowoseye says, so when the dialogue, roundtable discussions and meetings don't yield the required results, a strike is then appropriate, in my opinion. So what is your take on this, saying the NLC should hold on first till the cabinet is constituted before going on a strike?
Well, the first thought that pops into my head is, where's all that hitting the ground running? Because that was what we were told.
Yes, and they will keep hitting the ground running.
They keep hitting the ground. And so far, nobody's running. In fact, everybody's a bit sluggish and confused as to what's going on. I think... there needs to be foresight. There needs to be thinking about the consequences of one's actions. So you don't just take a decision, make people uncomfortable, and then start thinking about, what will come after. And I think part of the problem is the people who are making those decisions are often not immediately affected by it. And so that's why they can afford to take the decision and then think about it later.
Okay, so now this is a conversation. What you said is something that we have said over and over as regards, making decisions, making pronouncements before going to the drawing board and talking to stakeholders. And that's also what you have said. So now, as regards the ministerial list that is yet to be complete, what do you think as regards that? Is it taking too long, or is it here? Is it appropriate to be this slow?
I think one would be led to think it is fast, because when you compare it to the last government,
yes,
it looks relatively fast, but that's only because the standard is too low. In reality, 60 days is more than enough. Any serious campaign should probably have its own shadow cabinet, ministers ready, while you're running for the elections, because you would know what's going to happen if you win or if you are declared the winner anyway. So
you already know those you want to be in your cabinet ahead.
In that position, and you should be prepared. But maybe they weren't too sure,
Well, maybe. All right. So let's look at the other view from the net as regards a nationwide strike by the Nigeria Labour Congress that is being proposed, 7-day warning strike. All right, Ayomide from Ondo State is saying the proposed strike by the NLC is a welcome development because I think it's going to call the attention of the government to the problem of the masses and take proper steps to help ease the pain and the burden. So do you think it's a welcome development, just like Ayomide is saying?
Well, I think... there are some people, here's the problem, right? There are some people who still have a lot to lose, and there are some people who are already in a place of total loss as a result of the government's actions. There are some people who just can't even already afford to live. So for them, a 7-day strike maybe it's no longer a threat, because to them they're asking you, like, how much worse can it get from me? I've already hit rock bottom as a result of the changes, and I can't afford to take care of my children. So what the hell, we might as well go all the way and express this pain.
Yes.
And there are some people who still have more to lose, and so those naturally would be the people who are saying, oh, wait, hold on. Do you get? I don't want my situation to get worse. But again, it just all talks about, I think the act that led to this was passed in 2021. So the APC government has known that this was coming. The new regime knew that this was coming, and they had the option to either give themselves a bit more time so that they can plan properly, but they decided not to. And so now the people have to bear the consequences of your lack of forethought and planning, and that's a shame. And it feels like, well, how else do people express their pain and frustration if not by going on strike? Or, well, in this case, I think the court has already banned them from going on strike, so it would be a rally or a protest at this point.
Protest, yes.
I think if it is to convey the pains of majority of Nigerians, it's okay to, at least do that on a day, like somebody else has suggested. Do that for a day just to convey the message that, listen, this is absolutely inappropriate. And I mean, we have to take into account that this is a government that has just shared about 70 billion for the House of Assembly members. We're talking about 369 people sharing 70 billion naira.
But, well, they said that the president is still, it's not been assented.
I think I did the math. By the time you divide that 70 billion by 369, you end up with about 150 million each. Now, if somebody was about to give me 150 million to cushion the impact, or thinking about it, or maybe I've gotten part of it, I won't protest. Naturally, every Nigerian, if they were in the same place that these House of Assembly members were, they would not even think a protest is necessary, because you are on the cusp of getting the equivalent of 150 million naira each to sustain you for the next 4 years.
And they won't feel the effect.
You won't feel the effect, not to talk of the fact that you have all of these allowances. So, and in the middle of all of this, we're debating giving Nigerians 8,000 naira per month. To me, it just doesn't make any sense.
All right, now, okay, we're done with the views from the net at this point, and then we'll be going straight into the conversation for today, which is strike, the effect of strike on the Nigerian economy. So, Dapo, my first question to you as regards this is, holistically, how does strike affect any economy, particularly Nigeria, with the critical state in which the country is at this time?
Well, it creates... it prevents us from trading. I think somebody in the comment section already made the comment that businesses depend on each other. Your expenditure is another person's income. Now, if we're all on strike and no businesses are open, it means businesses are not making income, meaning the owners cannot then expend, meaning other people. So you create what you call a downward spiral. Now, our economy has taken enough of a shock already. So if there is a downward spiral, it will affect us quite significantly. So it's a hard situation, because again, for those who are still barely making it, it doesn't seem like a good decision. But bear in mind that Nigeria is by and large split between the haves and the have-nots. And the people on the have-not side, often it's drastic. So for these people, you telling them that, things can get worse, they're asking you how. How will it get worse for us? Do you get? And so naturally, these people would want to go out, and they're ready to strike, they're ready to protest, they're ready to do anything, because they just can't afford to live. I mean, transportation makes up roughly about 30 to 40% of the average person's expenditure, and has almost quadrupled in cost. So you're looking at a large percentage, more than 60% of a person's income has just disappeared just on getting to and from work. And there's also the inflationary pressure as well. The cost of everything has gone up. Ordinary yam safe now is crazy, right?
It seems like everything is gold these days.
Everything is gold. About the only thing Nigerians can still do at a, say, affordable rate is just breathe in air.
That's free, thankfully.
For now. Let's see.
Wow, for now. Okay, let's hope that it continues to be free. All right, now, aside the fact that all sectors would be affected, if there's like a strike, a nationwide strike, what exactly is the role of, the Nigeria Labour Congress and, unions in general in Nigeria's economy, in issues that are happening at this time? What are they proactive enough? Have they not been? Because when the issue of fuel price hike, no, not fuel price hike now, subsidy removal on fuel happened, a lot of people came out and were complaining that, what is NLC doing? Why is it taking so long? Why didn't they speak up? Because this had been in the works for a while. What's your take on NLC and, the other unions?
They have a statutory duty. It's all about collective bargaining. Their job is primarily to feel the pains of Nigeria and convey that to the government, as a united front, so that way they have power. Because as an individual, if I wake up and I say, okay, I'm not going to work today because things are expensive, the government probably doesn't care. Do you get what I'm saying? My employer might care, but largely the government doesn't care. But with a union, you have that collective bargaining power where you can all come to the government together and say, you know what? We're going to take this action, and the government has to react. So you can't really, shall we say, blame the union, because in many ways it's just doing its job. The people it's representing are absolutely in pain, you know, and all of these promises of a greater future, you know, it's nice, but it doesn't make people go through the pain and suffering. And I think part of the problem also is the fact that the people who are telling us to hold on, to, you know, bear with us and that things will get better are not in any way cutting down their own expenses. Let me tell you that the union would be unable to call for a strike if, say for example, the National Assembly had said, okay, we have slashed our salary and allowances in half. And everybody can see a visible change. If the federal government had cut down on its expenses, if the government comes out and says, okay, whenever you're traveling abroad, you can only take 2 people with you, as opposed to taking your entire team of about 20 or 30 people, and all of these kind of measures, and they were obvious to Nigerians, and everybody was like, oh wow, these people are really, they're really walking the walk, not just cracking jokes in the House of, in the Senate about let Nigerians pay. I personally,
It seemed like a joke, right?
it was a hilarious joke. It was hilarious. They were laughing to their heart's content at the expense of Nigerians. It was all a large joke to them, because at the end of the day, they left that meeting into their chauffeured cars, AC blasting, sirens in front. They don't know that there's hold on.
And they're not even feeling the hike in fuel prices.
Most of them have not gone to the petrol station to buy for themselves in years. So they don't even know. The accountant takes care of it. They just, oh, things are going on. Yeah, wow. And then they move on.
All right, now, I love the fact that you said something as regards cutting down the cost of the federal government, because a lot of people wouldn't look at that angle, or, I mean, not even a lot of people. People in power probably are not looking at that angle, because if you can't tell me, if you can't feel the pinch, if you can't feel what I'm going through, I don't know what advice you're giving me, I don't know what you're doing, and you say you want to help me. So I like that angle, that maybe it's actually time for the government to begin to think along those lines in cutting costs, not just Nigerians doing that, but those in power also doing it. Now, speaking of strike, which isn't just a Nigerian thing, but it's a global thing, can you tell us maybe like any difference between the way strikes operate in Nigeria and maybe other parts of the world?
No particular differences, I would say. It's just collective action. Everybody comes out and says they're not going to work. And in most cases, most governments know that you don't ever want it to get to that. You know, it's a lose-lose situation for both the government and the people. So the best thing to do is come to the table and find a solution. Because no matter how much the trade unions, you know, detest the removal of the fuel subsidy, regardless of where you stand, whether on the political divide, you must recognize that as a country, we cannot afford to continue with this fuel subsidy. It was a big scam from the start, and most of the dividends was being taken by a select few, and so very few people actually benefited, you know, from this. But again, it all comes down to the fact that there was no plan. There was no plan. There are options that they could have taken. There are plans that could have been in place. But, you know, we know we can't continue with the fuel subsidy. So it is a function of, okay, now that we know we can't continue, what can we do to make sure that, you know, we, you know, at least ease the suffering of Nigerians? The refinery that we went to go and cut ribbon, because I've not, Nigeria, we like to cut ribbon a lot.
Oh my!
That, you know, a half-baked cake, you just see somebody come with a big scissors and cut ribbon
and it
wasn't.
It wasn't completely done. So
the refinery has not pumped out 1 liter of petrol.
But we were told that by July it was going to.
Well,
okay.
You know, the refinery, what do they call it? The interrail that we have here in Lagos. You know, that they kept to cut ribbon on.
Oh my.
Nobody has seen it. It's sad, you know, because sometimes you just have to laugh, because if not, you just weep. Because everybody's just cutting ribbon, and nothing is ever really finished. This expressway that they've been doing along Lagos Ibadan, it has been ongoing for decades, and it's still not finished. And yet they've launched it. They've cut ribbon on it too. So it's a very sad state of affairs. Okay,
so I want to give you like a 2-in-1 question at this time. Sure. Now, negotiations, we've been seeing what has been happening over the years. Then they'll go to the drawing board, NLC pauses on the strike, and then they say negotiations are ongoing, and then it seems like NLC or the people still lose. So what is the way forward as regards that, and how does the media, help in ensuring that, accountability, there's optimal accountability in terms of, all these negotiations happening?
I think it would be nice to see that, the details of these meetings are transcribed and made available to the public, because they're all public officials, they're all public servants, whether they're Labour Congress or whether they're in government. I'd like to see that transcribed and published so that we all know what was agreed. And beyond that, it's time for them to come out. Okay, we know that there should have been a plan, but unfortunately, the government just did not have that in its thought, and it made a very rash, shall we say, ignorant decision. We can't continue to batter about that and continue to talk, because that won't help the situation. Now, what do we do going forward? There's many alternatives. Okay, there's the issue of subsidizing transportation by bringing in, cars that use CNG, but that's compressed natural gas, which is a lot cheaper than petrol. A serious government right now would be meeting with the likes of Innocent Motors or any other Nigerian manufacturer, right? So that you can tell them, okay, if you produce cars that use CNG and buses that use CNG, we will buy as many as you can make. Now, you're also stimulating part of the economy by pushing money into these individuals. They have to employ more staff as well. You put those buses on the road, you can call it Nigeria Inter Transport, whatever you want to call it, name it after yourself if you are that egotistic. But let it run between all major cities, let it run between major parts from the island to the mainland, and this is a cheaper alternative to at least ease the suffering of the people. That is one thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is improve infrastructure that lead between key areas where the food is produced and the major cities. Ensure that there's food security so that the food can make it down here. You can also, use these same buses or these transportation systems to, bring the food to the city, because part of the reason why our food has gone up now is because the people who are transporting it are private enterprises and they are paying premium, 700, 600 naira petrol. So you can reduce that as well so that people can have food more easily available. So those are at least 2 steps that you can take as a government right now to make things a bit easier for Nigerians, There's so much more that the government can explore and should explore, particularly in and around private enterprise. Now, private enterprise is the only way you create wealth. America has companies, several companies that have, generate more money than the entire of Nigeria.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? Now, you can imagine the amount of wealth that these countries are creating by having private enterprise. And how do you do that? You reduce the barriers that you set up. So you stop your officials coming out, asking for bribe. Make sure the taxation system is such that it incentivizes private business, and make available loans so that more entrepreneurs can step into the sphere as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I'm hoping that the federal government is listening and should take these suggestions seriously as regards, stemming the tide of strikes and ensuring that the Nigerian system works efficiently for Nigerians so that we can actually be that giant of Africa.